a massive opportunity. If you saw the games that are lined up, Everton, Crystal Palace, they won the most difficult game at Crystal Palace. West Ham at home, Wolves on Monday. And you're thinking, 10 points. That could put Manchester United into a serious position in the league. They could be up there in third. And really then sort of starting to think about the programme they've got when everybody kicks into European football and the cup competitions kicking again into sort of February, March. But unfortunately, they're not taking their chances to get up there and be up there. And I don't get it. I don't get the lack of urgency and the lack of intensity. I don't get the slow play. I don't get the lack of sort of risk in the game. I don't get it. Ruben Amorim can't be telling them to go out there. In fact, I know he's not, because in his interview with me pre-match that me and Peen did, he said, I want more intensity from the very beginning. Now, I suspect, unless he's having us over, he's not going back into the change room saying, guys, play slowly tonight. He's going in there and saying, lads, let's get the ball moving around quickly. Let's run forward. Let's play with real threat and vigour. And it doesn't transpire out on the pitch. So, I don't know.
Why does that happen?
Peter, I've got no understanding. We lost games here. And we drew games here. And we drew big games here. And we drew sort of what would be lesser games here. But I don't think we drew games in that way. I don't think we lost games in that way. I think we'd throw the kitchen sink at it. I think you'd see both full-backs flying forward, centre-backs in the box, goalkeeper... Jeez, what's I've kicked over them? A bottle of water. That's the best tackle I've seen all night.
It is water, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. It is water. It could be vodka as well, to be fair. But I think you'd see goalkeepers coming up and going for corner kicks. You'd see mayhem. You'd see things happening. You'd see a real rush and a real massive... I'm not saying embarrassment, but a real massive urge to not lose this game, to not draw this game. And I don't see that. Why? You may as well lose as going, I just don't see it. I don't see the actual appetite to go and throw your whole life at the game and everything you've got and throw it forward and take risks. And Bruno does look, I have to say, a little bit like he does that. I think Bruno at the end there, you see him, he's like the kid in the sort of in the playground he's trying to get everywhere and he's trying to take this, he's trying to shoot from there. I actually see that little bit of panic in him that we can't draw this game. I don't see it in enough of the others. I don't. I see there still being quite a sort of like a bit of a, let's play there and pass there and we'll let the game drift and we'll sort of walk towards a throw-in and we'll take things a little bit easy. That can't be what it is. And I don't know what to say other than they are what they are and they're showing us to what they are. The 7th or 8th or 9th, they just don't want to jump up. And look, maybe it'll happen in the next couple of weeks, because what I would say, this league at this moment in time isn't very good in terms of quality, and the consistency is really, really dire. It's poor. Everyone's losing, everyone's dropping points. Everyone, apart from Arsenal, Sunderland and a couple of others, are not playing anywhere near the standards that they can achieve.
Yeah, it's frustrated, he's angry. That's it.
How can you get the team to maybe perform better, I suppose, and put that to bed, I suppose, going forward?
It's working again and trying to win the next one.
Ruben, the only second half your team has won this season was the one at Crystal Palace on Sunday, when Palace obviously tied that playing in Europe. Why do you think your team are having so many difficulties in the second half of games and winning games and seeing games?
Yeah, but there are second halves that we lose control of the game. Today I think it was not that case. Maybe after the first goal we lost some second balls and Mateus won 1 or 2 second balls there and make it a transition. We try to defend all the time far from the goal because we knew it. They tried to make a cross, win a corner, like it happened. Long ball. They win a second ball against 3 guys of us in the defense. So we need to be better in second halves.
Samuel?
Ruben, you made, I think, 5 changes overall. 4 of them were defensive players who came on. I know it probably didn't have the impact that you wanted, but in hindsight, would you not been that conservative when you were 1-0 up?
No. We are losing because of the second balls. Sometimes there's not more men in front that you are going to win the ball. we had more men to put in the offense. Who would be more offensive?
I understand you've not got a lot of options. Kobe Mainoo.
Yes, it was the second ball, and I was worried with Mateus. I know that Bruno reached the box really well. Mason Mount is playing in this position, so they were trying to push us. Brian have a lot of pace to try to win the ball in one transition, so that was my idea.
Ruben, you came in and said you're frustrated and angry. What are you frustrated and angry at? Because your team obviously has made progress this season, but over the last few weeks it seems to have gone backwards.
No, it's not going back with the results going backwards. We had some moments. Again, that can happen when one team. You were talking about when we had that run that the team was really perfect, and I was always saying we are not far from being in the perfect moment. We are really inconsistent. But if you look at the goal, 83 minutes, we have a long ball. We have everything under control. We need to do better.
James?
Ruben, do you have that sort of sense with the team at the moment? Just that one goal is not going to be enough. I mean, you led against Forest, you led against Spurs, you led today, you've not won any of those games. Do you always feel that they look like they're going to struggle to keep?
Yeah, well, I always have the feeling, I think everyone has the feeling that we need to score more goals, and not is sure. Even with Brighton, we were 3-0 and then suddenly, so we suffer with that. We are inconsistent, we need to improve.
I'm just going to Robin and Jamie.
When you talk about sort of second balls and duels and losing out, that's obviously not a tactical thing. Is it a desire thing? Is it a lack of energy?
No, it's second ball. Sometimes it's tactical things. We try to adjust with the players that we put, and then we control. We have in the final minutes we had the possession. The ball was far from the opponent. Was not a clear full press from the opponent. We cannot let a team that is so much taller than us to have a corner when the ball is in the goalkeeper. So this kind of details makes the difference. And today, a corner in the second half made the difference.
You're saying frustrated, and I'm guessing you players are as well because they don't want to perceive like that. Is it your style to go into the changing room after this kind of a goal being conceded and sort of directly?
No,
or do you leave it to the next day?
No, in that regard, I'm almost always consistent. I had one, and Brighton last year. So I will talk to them tomorrow a little bit.
You just calm. That's what you mean. You're level.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, move on to the Wolves press conference about until 1:30.
Paul Burmeister, Tim Howard, Danny Higginbotham. They almost had all 3 points. They being Manchester United. Danny, what mistake did they make in the second half?
I think it's been a regular occurrence with them. They don't finish teams off. I think if you look at the 6 wins this season, only 2 of them have been by more than 1 goal. When you look at the teams that are challenging, the great teams over the years in the Premier League, they get that first goal, they go and get the second, they go and get the third. It's as though Manchester United get that first goal and it's like, right, okay, we'll sit back because we're not too sure what to do next. And they allow the opposition back on them. And, the atmosphere was brilliant. It was mentioned during the commentary, but you can just see the faces now. And it's obviously there's huge frustration because that is a game that Manchester United should have won. But I think there's an argument to say they didn't deserve to win it.
Well, I look at both ends of it, Dan, with what you're saying. They don't have that number 9 striker that's hungry for a goal. When you get up in a game, what that striker does, when we talked about Haaland being so selfish and arrogant, which is what you want from your striker, you want a striker at 1-0 to say, I'm going to go and bag a brace or get my goal. And they just don't seem to have that at one end. At the other end, they've kept 1 Premier League clean sheet. That's not good enough. And teams are going to think they can nip one at the end because they know that you're vulnerable. And look, West Ham had a game plan. They didn't have to come out, Paul. They parked the bus, they played on the break, they had 2 banks of 4, really good for a team down near the bottom going to Old Trafford, and they were allowed to do that because it was only 1-0. So long as the game was 0-0 or 1-1, that game plan was perfect. And it proved to be perfect. At the end, all they needed to do was get up the pitch 1 or 2 times, get a corner, and that happens.
And I think you add on to that as well, is that teams, when they're playing Manchester United, I think a lot of them are probably of the mindset, if they can be in the game going into the last 20, 25 minutes, they can potentially get something from it. I think 3/4 of the goals that Manchester United conceded have been in the second half. So whether it's a case of they start to tire, whether they start to get frustrated, or when they take the lead, it's very difficult for them to okay, what we're going to do next. Like when you were part of great Manchester United teams, I played against great Manchester United teams. If you conceded the first goal, it could be very, very quickly 2 or 3-0, and they just don't seem to have that belief where they can take it on.
And and the other part about it, and I've said this a long time, and this is a tactical thing with Ruben Amorim. He oftentimes will change someone in his back three or back four in the second half, like a like-for-like change. Not someone who's injured, not someone who's on a yellow card like Kevin. He'll just change someone in the back four, in the back three. That's unsettling to teams. And so I'm actually looking at that thinking, maybe there's no wonder they're not keeping clean sheets. There's not a lot of continuity throughout the course of 90 minutes. So
I also think the frustration is, and as I said this to you off air, Cunha, Mbumo, Fernandes, you've got players there that are creative, that can make things happen. And for whatever reason, a lot of them, they find themselves in the same vicinity on the pitch, so they then become easier to defend against.
And it's not there are missed opportunities every weekend. However, this one is different because they had a chance to move past 4 teams. You usually move past 1 or 2 if you win. They could have gone all the way to 5th. So that sense of urgency in those last 10 or 15 minutes really could have gone a long way.
It could have done. There's an argument to say that this is the most competitive Premier League ever because of how quickly teams can jump up. But what I would say for Manchester United as well, a lot of the times they have to work hard to score goals. I'm not too sure how hard teams are having to work to actually score against Manchester United, and that's an issue as well.
And just to put a cap on this was an opportunity. Beat Palace, beat West Ham at home, that's down in and around the bottom 3. Then you play Wolves, and that's 3 in a row. And here they are on the back foot again, getting a draw.
A couple hours ago, before we knew the personality of this match, I think it was you, Danny, that said, if they don't, at home, against the 18th place team, get all 3 points here, it's a bad outing. And it's one aside after it's tied at 1 apiece.
Mikel Arteta has made it clear that Arsenal will need to unleash their complete player against Bayern Munich. The Gunners host the German champions at the Emirates Stadium on Wednesday, and one man in particular could be decisive. Ebereki Eze, described as a very complete player by teammate Mikel Merino, is emerging as one of Arsenal's most dangerous weapons ahead of their Champions League clash with Bayern. The 27-year-old announced himself in North London with a stunning hat-trick in his first derby since arriving in a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. His 3 brilliant goals dismantled Tottenham, and truthfully, he could have scored even more. Merino believes every one of Arsenal's 8 summer signings has lifted the squad's level, helping the team build a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League. But Wednesday's matchup is different. Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champions, represent the toughest test yet for Arteta's side. Speaking after the win over Spurs, Merino praised Eze's qualities and hinted at the impact he could have in such a high-stakes European battle. "We've brought in a lot of players who can make a difference. But you can see that other teams have spent big as well," the Spain international said. "Individual brilliance can win matches, sure, but in the end, it's the team that matters. If you have great players who don't connect, that's a problem." The good thing about this group is that everyone thinks about the team first. When asked about Eze specifically, Merino didn't hesitate. "I think he's incredibly complete. He can dribble, he can pass, and his technical quality is outstanding. In Spain, we always talk about players who can connect with others. He has that naturally. He grew up with that instinct to link play, move the ball, and build relationships on the pitch. He also has the mindset to get involved, demand the ball, and influence the game. At the same time, he's strong, he can take players on, and he can finish. He's a truly complete signing." Merino also touched on how the modern game often reduces players to simple numbers. "These days everyone judges players by goals and assists, that's just how it is. But as footballers, we see the deeper qualities he brings, the technique, the movement, the intelligence. Even in training, you can tell immediately how special he is. Yes, he's scoring goals, but he's much more than that. He's an exceptional player, and we're incredibly lucky to have him. He can play in several positions and adapt to different systems. He's been a huge addition for Arsenal." Beyond the technical qualities, Merino believes Eze's attitude, and the healthy competition within the squad will be crucial in Arsenal's title push. You can hear the calm in Eberechi's voice and see it in the way he carries himself. He's confident, grounded, and every morning we sit together in the sauna at the training ground and talk about everything, he added with a smile. He's a great guy, already fully integrated, and we need players like him. Competition is fierce. There's so much quality in this squad. That's exactly what the manager wanted, as many top players as possible, all ready to play. It makes his decisions tough, choosing who starts and who doesn't, but it also pushes every one of us to give our best in every session. And that's why we're improving as a team. As Arsenal prepare for Bayern's arrival, Arteta is facing one of the most delicate balancing acts of the season. The squad is healthy, competition is fierce, and expectations have never been higher. But behind the scenes, there is a growing sense that Iza's versatility and calm presence may be essential against a Bayern side known for controlling the tempo in big European nights. Arteta himself has hinted at Iza's importance without naming him directly. After the Tottenham victory, the manager spoke about the need for players who can break pressure, dictate rhythm, and stay composed when the game becomes chaotic. Those inside the club believe those comments were aimed at Iza as much as anyone. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed by how quickly he has adapted to Arsenal's positional play structure, a system that demands far more tactical discipline than what he was used to at Crystal Palace. Analysts at the club point to his growing influence not only in the final third, but also in build-up phases, where his ability to glide past pressure could help Arsenal bypass Bayern's aggressive midfield line. There is also an awareness that Bayern's fullbacks tend to push high, leaving spaces between the lines. Iza's skill set, sharp turns, deceptive acceleration, and precise final balls, could be exactly what Arteta needs to exploit those gaps. Outside the club, pundits have already started circling Wednesday's match as a defining moment for the £67.5 million signing. Some believe that if Iza can impose himself on a Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, it will confirm his arrival among Europe's elite creative players. Former players have echoed that sentiment. Several ex-Arsenal figures, speaking on television over the weekend, highlighted the need for someone who can change the temperature of the match with a moment of calm or an unexpected burst of creativity. Iza, they argued, is one of the few in the squad capable of both. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich come into the match with their own confidence. Their midfield trio has been one of the most dominant in Europe this season, and they have shown a repeated ability to suffocate opponents early. That dynamic is precisely why Arteta may lean on Iza's composure. When the game tightens, Arsenal will need a player capable of slowing it down, protecting the ball, and finding solutions in tight spaces. Within Arsenal's dressing room, Mourinho's praise reflects a broader consensus. Senior players have reportedly been struck by Iza's humility and work ethic, qualities that have helped him integrate seamlessly into a squad that already had strong internal chemistry. Staff members describe him as someone who never forces the game and lets the match come to him, characteristics that could prove invaluable in a high-tension Champions League tie. As kickoff approaches, the narrative surrounding the match has shifted. What began as a test of Arsenal's resilience has quietly become a spotlight on whether Iza can elevate them in Europe the same way he has in the Premier League. For Arteta, the equation is simple. If Arsenal are to overcome Bayern, they will need more than intensity. They will need control. They will need creativity. And increasingly, they will need the completeness Iza brings to every phase of the pitch. Whether he starts in a wide role as a floating midfielder, or even as an interior playmaker, the expectation is the same. Iza will have to find the spaces others cannot, and influence the game in ways that statistics alone will not capture. The stakes are high, the opponent is formidable, and the spotlight is intense. But within the walls of London Coney, the belief is growing that this is exactly the kind of stage Eberechi Iza was signed for. Martin Odegaard is nearing a return to action after suffering a medial collateral ligament injury in Arsenal's 2-0 win over West Ham earlier in October. Yet, 3.5 years after Mikel Arteta named him captain, the Norwegian finds himself in an unfamiliar position. His place in the starting lineup is no longer guaranteed. For the first time since joining the club permanently from Real Madrid in August 2021, there is real debate over whether he remains an automatic choice for Arteta's 11. Odegaard, now 26, has been central to Arsenal's resurgence under Arteta, the conductor who shaped the team's rhythm through some of their most fluid football. But this season, the Gunners have been forced to navigate long stretches without their captain, first due to a shoulder issue that kept him out of 4 matches in September, and then because of a knee collision with West Ham's Crescencio Somerville that sidelined him again. And during his absence, something significant happened. Ebereki Eze stepped into the spotlight. Eze's sensational hat-trick in the North London Derby has complicated the picture. Now thriving in a central role, the England international has given Arsenal a different kind of presence around the edge of the box. A blend of unpredictability, directness, and two-footed confidence that opponents struggle to contain. He may not control games with the same metronomic precision as Odegaard, but he offers a spark, a willingness to take risks at moments when Arsenal need a jolt of creativity. After such a standout performance against Tottenham, it feels almost impossible to imagine Arteta leaving Eze out. The manager has always had a soft spot for players riding a wave of confidence, and Eze is currently surfing at full height. There was a similar situation back in September, when Mikel Merino was handed a start against Manchester City after scoring 4 times in 2 games for Spain, including a hat-trick against Turkey. Arteta doesn't hesitate to reward form. Eze has carried that form onto the international stage as well, recently scoring a stunning goal for England in a 2-0 win over Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers at Wembley. Though he can play on the left, it has always been clear that Arteta brought him to the Emirates to operate in midfield. And with Declan Rice and Martin Zubamendi near untouchable in the double pivot, the odds of Eze and Odegaard consistently starting together seem slim. That leaves Odegaard in an unfamiliar position. He needs minutes to rebuild sharpness, yet Arsenal's medical team won't rush him. The plan is likely to ease him back through short substitute appearances before restoring him to larger roles. But even once fully fit, Odegaard faces genuine competition, because Eze has shifted the landscape. His arrival has raised the team's ceiling, and his performances have earned him the right to keep his place. Before the dismantling of Tottenham, Eze had scored only twice for Arsenal, one against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup and another versus his former club Crystal Palace, a clever finish that sealed victory. Now with 5 goals across all competitions, he sits just 1 behind Odegaard's total from last season, when the captain made 45 appearances. Odegaard's 2023-24 numbers were outstanding: 11 goals, 12 assists, influence written across every competition. That is the standard he must match again if he wants to reclaim his spot, because Eze is hungry, confident, and eager to impress ahead of next summer's World Cup. Arteta will insist that Arsenal need both players at their best if they are to meet their ambitions in the months ahead. And with Kai Havertz also working his way back to full fitness, potentially slotting into midfield behind marquee striker Victor Gyökeres, the battle for places has never been fiercer at the Emirates. For Odegaard, the message is clear: he must rise to the challenge. His leadership and quality remain unquestioned, but he can no longer rely on reputation alone. If he embraces the competition and fights his way back into the side, his return could push Arsenal to even greater heights. And if the team has already reached this level without several key figures, the potential for what comes next may be even greater. Inside the club, staff members are quietly acknowledging that Arsenal are entering a new phase, one where no player, not even the captain, is immune to tactical evolution. Arteta has spent the past 2 seasons building a squad capable of sustaining pressure across multiple competitions, and the emergence of Eze is a sign that the manager's long-term planning is beginning to bear fruit. Depth is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. But with depth comes difficult decisions. Arteta has always valued balance in midfield, and the contrasting profiles of Odegaard and Eze force him to reconsider what type of midfield best suits the team's ambitions in Europe and the Premier League. The technical control and spatial awareness that Odegaard brings have defined Arsenal's identity under Arteta. Conversely, Eze's dynamism, physical presence, and unpredictable touches give Arsenal a new dimension, especially against teams that sit deep or defend aggressively in central areas. This internal shift has also caught the attention of analysts and former players. Several pundits have begun to question whether the captaincy should guarantee a place in the lineup, especially at a club with ambitions of challenging for the Champions League. Others argue that Odegaard's leadership is too valuable to sideline, pointing to the standards he sets in training and his influence over younger players. Those debates are already spilling into the media, and they will only intensify as the season progresses. There is also the tactical question of whether Arteta might eventually experiment with a system that accommodates both Eze and Odegaard, something he briefly attempted earlier in the season during the win over West Ham. But with Rice and Zubamendi forming an almost impenetrable midfield pairing, any reshuffle risks destabilizing the defensive structure that has made Arsenal one of the most resilient teams in the league. The manager has hinted that he is open to adjustments, but only if they enhance the team's overall cohesion. For Odegaard himself, the challenge is as much psychological as it is physical. He has worked hard to cultivate an image of calm authority, a leader who raises the level of those around him through clarity and consistency. Now he must show that he can adapt, compete, and respond to adversity. His teammates still speak of him with admiration, describing him as one of the most studious and detail-oriented players at London Coney. They believe that once he regains full rhythm, he will naturally reassert his influence. Yet even they acknowledge that the landscape has shifted. One senior player privately remarked that, "The team is different now, ease has changed what we can do in the final third." That sentiment reflects not a lack of faith in Odegaard, but an understanding that Arsenal have evolved while he has been sidelined. For Arteta, the ideal scenario is straightforward: a fully fit Odegaard competing with a fully confident ease, creating a level of internal competition that lifts the entire squad. The manager often speaks about the need for healthy tension among his players, pressure that keeps standards high without fracturing unity. The arrival of Victor Gyökeres, combined with the recovery of Havertz, only amplifies that dynamic. Arsenal's season will almost certainly hinge on these midfield decisions. With Champions League knockout matches approaching and the Premier League title race tightening, Arteta must decide not only who starts, but what kind of identity he wants his team to carry into the defining months of the campaign. The next few weeks will reveal whether Odegaard's return sparks a resurgence or a battle for relevance. If he manages to reclaim his place, it could serve as a reminder of why Arteta trusted him with the armband in the first place. If he struggles, it will underline how rapidly Arsenal are progressing, and how little room there is for sentiment at the highest level. Either way, the captain's response will shape not just his future, but the trajectory of a team that believes it is on the brink of something significant.